America's most wanted criminals who were never caught. Yet. They say the wheels of justice turn slowly, but grind exceedingly fine. You mess with the law and you find out how wicked the system is pretty soon thereafter. Well, not every time. These 5 of America's most wanted criminals have had luck on their side and managed to get away. D.B. Cooper. This is the John Doe of all unclosed cases of the USA. So much so that D.B. Cooper has become a legend. The story dates back to November 24, 1971. A man boarded a plane that was flying from Oregon to Seattle under a false name, Dan Cooper. The culprit didn't look suspicious at all until he handed out a note to the stewardess. "Bring me $200,000 and a couple of parachutes," the note said. As it turns out, this innocent-looking guy had a bomb strapped to his chest, and just like that, the whole plane got into a state of panic. As soon as the plane landed in Seattle, the cash and the parachutes were provided to D.B. Cooper, while he held around 36 people hostage. He also trapped the flight crew and warned them not to play smart in any case. Cooper gave the pilots instructions to drop the plane stairs and to fly lower than 10,000 feet at a speed under 200 knots. He further directed the plane to go to Mexico. However, he had another trick up his sleeves. Remember his demand for the parachutes? Cooper opened the plane's cabin midway through the flight and jumped out. He dropped down those stairs and disappeared into the night, leaving just a black necktie along with some cigarette butts. It's unclear where he jumped exactly, and just like that, D.B. Cooper vanished, never to be seen again. This case troubled the FBI for decades. Such a massive crime, and there was no clue about the criminal. They narrowed down to 24 suspects from 800, but could never close on the actual criminal. There is a suspicion among some that he died during his parachute jump, yet no body matching the case has ever been discovered. The closest they ever came to the missing $200K was when a young boy was found with $5,800 with the matching serial number, and that's the end of it. Defeated, the FBI decided to focus its resources elsewhere. In 2016, the investigation of the D.B. Cooper case was formally closed. If you think that's crazy and that stealing $200,000 is a lot of money, just wait for our next fugitive, John Rufo. You don't have to be a murderer or a kingpin to be on the FBI's wanted list, and what better example to prove that than John Rufo, a nobody who ran a business worth hundreds of millions, which apparently never existed. The best way to explain what John Rufo did would be to say he found a loophole. He managed to convince banks to lend him money for research, named Project Star. He and his partner pretended to be senior executives from the tobacco company Philip Morris. Yet the project never existed, and the guys had nothing to do with Philip Morris. The funds were supposed to help buy infrastructure. But you know where I'm going with this, don't you? Millions of dollars were drained, and no one knew what was going on. But the wheels of justice spun, and the lawmakers eventually caught up with John Rufo. They found out that upwards of $350 million was stolen by John Rufo, and for that, he was sentenced to 17 years in prison. This video is about the criminals who were never found, isn't it? So what happened next? The day Rufo was supposed to show up in prison, he disappeared. Not a single clue about him was found, except a rental car he used to get to the airport. And just like that, poof, he was gone, never to be found again. Until the U.S. Marshals believed they had a solid lead on one of the country's most wanted criminals after 23 years. A tip was given to the authorities that Rufo was watching a baseball match in Dodger Stadium, Los Angeles. The authorities reached there in minutes. However, the baseball fan turned out to be just an ordinary person attending the Dodgers versus Boston Red Sox. The person most invested in his capture is Linda Louston, who was Rufo's wife at the time of his arrest, and who gave a long interview to ABC News. When Rufo neglected to appear at the prison, Louston was one of the people who lost their houses. 6 of his family members' houses, which were all taken by the authorities after he ran away, had served as collateral for his $10 million bond, but that number is nowhere near what John Rufo had stolen. The next criminal on our list is... I'm sorry for interrupting, but hey, watching this crispy video without subscribing to Crime Cartel is nothing short of a crime, you know? So do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button for more true crime videos. On to the next fugitive, Victor Garena. On September 12, 1983, Victor Garena pulled off one of the largest armed robberies in the nation's history, and got away with it. Garena was recruited by Sagara Palmer, an activist who formed the political group Los Mochateros, to arrange the robbery, and he surely participated in this one. His robbery became one of the biggest loots of our time. Garena, a worker for a Wells Fargo bank branch in West Hartford, Connecticut, injected sedatives to two of his co-workers. After that, Garena looted more than $7 million from the bank, put it in his hired vehicle, and then took off. And since then, no one has heard from the money or Victor Garena. It is claimed that the money was stolen for the Puerto Rican independence movement. After tracing Palmer and 8 of his allies in Los Macheteros, the FBI got them arrested and transferred to Connecticut in 1985. However, Garena was never found. Palmer, on the other hand, was found guilty of multiple offenses and was given a prison sentence. There is a $1 million reward for information that leads to his arrest, and he is still listed as one of the FBI's top 10 most wanted. So if you know more, this might be your lucky day. There is little chance that you have information on the next fugitive. Joseph Mengele. The Nazi scientist and doctor Joseph Mengele is among the most infamous and heinous people in human history, so much so that he is known as the Angel of Death. After suffering injuries of the war in 1943, Mengele was moved to the Auschwitz death camp, where he committed some of the most horrific and distressing war crimes in recorded history. Mengele conducted many medical tests on the detained Jews and Roma at Auschwitz. He had full power to gravely harm and even kill his subjects if he so desired, and he was especially interested in carrying out experiments on twins. He would poke the eyes of his subjects and didn't even care for children. It won't be wrong to envision him like the evil doctor from comics. This doctor even went on to let his subjects die from infections like gangrene caused by his experiments. He was captured by the USA, but since his identity was not known, he wasn't brought to justice. This gave him an opportunity to run away, and he went to Bavaria and even Argentina. He further went on to Paraguay to run from the agencies, until he was found dead in Brazil. Allegedly, he had a stroke and was found dead in his bathtub. Even though he wasn't brought to justice for his actions, he managed to stay out of hands from the agencies after being caught. If you watch a lot of movies, you surely are familiar with the next fugitive, the Zodiac Killer. I'm pretty sure you've heard of Jake Gyllenhaal's Zodiac movie. Well, this is the real inspiration behind the film. After terrorizing Northern California in the late 1960s and early 1970s, the notorious Zodiac Killer remains one of the most terrifying criminals to have escaped justice. As per an A&E biography, the authorities have built a direct connection between the Zodiac Killer and 5 different deaths that occurred in 1968 and 1969. In addition, the killer is suspected of 5 more murders that took place during the same time. His first known incident occurred in December 1968 in Vallejo, California, where he fatally shot 2 teens who were sitting in their car. In 1969, he carried out 3 more attacks, leaving 3 more dead and 2 seriously injured. In this case, the FBI worked with and helped local law enforcement, using techniques like cryptanalysis and behavioral analysis. The infamous murderer, Gary Francis Post, was named by a team of cold case experts known as the Case Breakers in 2018. However, the FBI and law enforcement denied the evidence right away and questioned its accuracy. To this day, the identity of the Zodiac Killer remains a mystery, and no one was ever arrested for any of the murders. If you want to find out who the richest criminals of all time are adjusted for inflation, be sure to click on the video on your screen. See you there!